Is China secretly preparing for the next pandemic? You best believe that they are. According to reports, Beijing's top COVID expert, Dr. Zhang Wenhong, is spearheading research to explore how climate change impacts mutation and spread of infectious disease. Now, this is big. Remember, this is the same country that exported the Wuhan virus to the world. It's now scrambling to prevent the next global outbreak. According to reports, Dr. Zhang believes that as the Earth's surface heats up, bacterial, viral, as well as fungal infections will evolve, mutate, and spread to new habitats. What this means basically is that pathogens and their vectors like ticks and mosquitoes will obtain a more habitable land. And this will, in turn, expose animals to bacterial, viral, as well as fungal infections. Just take the United States as an example. The rate of new cases of encephalitis and Lyme disease, both spread by ticks, has significantly risen. In China, dengue fever caused by mosquito has sharply increased in areas where it was not found before. From tropical areas, it's now traveling up north. Across Southeast Asia and Africa, malaria is still thriving. It has still not been eliminated. What's behind all this is the question. No points for guessing. Climate change. Reports suggest that scientists hypothesize that the COVID-19 virus, which spread to humans from bats and their habitats, are also expanding. Dr. Zhang notes how as the Earth warms up and the ice caps melt, some species that have not emerged before may enter human society, including ancient species of bacteria and fungi. Coming back to China now, Dr. Zhang, who played a pivotal role in China's fight against COVID-19, is now collaborating with other experts towards building a global pandemic preparedness. But a global response requires scientists to work together and provide enough data, enough evidence and suggestions on preparedness. A goal that Dr. Zhang says he is working towards. Dr. Zhang signed a memorandum of understanding with the University of Hong Kong. As part of the project, experts in climate change, public health, infectious disease control, as well as public policy will be brought together for research. They will research, establish monitoring systems, discuss public policy. They will work with environmental experts and climate experts to conduct in-depth research on climate change and its impact on the spread of diseases. And as experts have been stressing since the outbreak of COVID-19, the key to preventing a pandemic is more data and routine surveillance. Dr. Zhang hopes that these efforts can help scientists discover alarms for incoming pandemics. They could serve as an early warning and hopefully trigger quick response actions. The top Chinese COVID expert said that a discussion between experts from multiple countries will be held the second half of this year. But there are challenges, you see, that scientists need to deal with. Beyond preparing to manage the spread of future outbreaks, scientists are also concerned with how climate change will affect treatments for infected patients. You see, antimicrobial resistance, that is when bacteria, parasites, viruses, fungi develop resistance to drugs that are meant to kill them, is a big challenge. Scientists worry that infectious pathogens can change and mutate over time, which means that they no longer respond to medicines that are meant to treat them, and this can cause infections to persist within patients and increase the risk of it spreading to others. In 2019, Zhang said that 1.27 million people around the world died directly as a result of antibiotic resistance. Dr. Zhang says that if there is one issue that scientists all over the world agree on, it is that by 2050, 10 million people will die of drug resistance annually. That, by the way, is equal to the number of people who currently die of cancer each year. All thanks to climate change, humans are becoming drug resistant faster. than the rate at which antibiotics are being made. Currently, there is a lack of research on how climate change is affecting drug resistance. But according to Dr. Zhang, understanding this is the natural next step towards preparing for the next pandemic. According to the World Health Organization, an integrated global approach is the key. It includes researchers, doctors, government officials, world organizations, and global communities working together. And this is why the governments worldwide are of the view that it's not a matter of if a pandemic will happen again. It's a matter of when the next pandemic will happen. We are still coming to terms with the full scope and impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Are we really prepared for the next one? At least 40 people were killed, many others wounded in an attack by gunmen on Zurak village in Nigeria's north-central plateau state, where clashes between herders and farmers are rife. The armed men, often referred to locally as bandits, were fleeing an onslaught by security agents when the attack occurred. Attacks in rural areas and kidnapping for ransom have become commonplace in northern Nigeria in recent years, where armed gangs have targeted villages, schools and travelers, demanding millions of naira in ransom. Here's a report sent by WION's correspondent, Louisa Olani.
The Zurak mining community was thrown into mourning. You could feel their pain from their ululations and their weeping at this funeral procession in Jos, Nigeria. Hours prior, gunmen on motorbikes raided their village in central Nigeria. They torched their houses and aimlessly shot at people, killing up to 40 villagers in the end. The attack late on Monday on Wase district in Plateau State was the latest violence in an area which has long been a flashpoint for disputes over resources and for outbreaks in intercommunal clashes. The Plateau State Commissioner for Information confirmed the incident to the media. He had initially stated that 9 people were killed, but later confirmed the number to be between 40 and 42. Other people had gunshot wounds and residents were searching for others reported missing. According to the police, the attackers were fleeing a security forces operation against bandits using the Bangalala forest as a hideout. Police say 9 bandits had been killed in the operation. Sitting on the dividing line between Nigeria's mostly Muslim north and predominantly Christian south, Plateau State often sees outbreaks of violence sparked by disputes between nomadic herders and pastoral farmers. Climate change has contributed to escalating tensions over grazing land, water access and other resources such as the state's metro reserves. Parts of northern and central Nigeria have also been terrorized by heavily armed gangs that loot villages and carry out mass kidnappings for ransom. In December, almost 200 people were killed in Plateau's Bokos and Barkin Ladi districts over several days of violence during the Christmas period. A month later, intercommunal clashes erupted in Plateau's Mango town that left churches and mosques burned. More than 50 people died and thousands were displaced. Wase has deposits of zinc and lead, while Plateau as a whole is known for its tin mining industry.
Various media reports say residents camped for safety as these gunmen in their numbers raided the community with sophisticated weapons, disrupting the day's activities. Now, Plateau State, Nigeria has been fraught with a series of armed attacks in recent times, with thousands of persons killed in recurrent violence in the state since 1994. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olani, WION, World is One.
Ibrahim Raisi's helicopter crash came as a shock, but it's not the first time something like this has happened. History is filled with many such mysterious crashes that have killed powerful figures, and nobody can tell for sure if they were accidents or murder plots. The latest victim was Yevgeny Prigozhin, Putin's chef. It might be fresh in your memory. The Wagner chief was on board a private jet from Moscow to St. Petersburg. The plane was Embraer Legacy 600. In its 20 years of operation, it had recorded only one accident, that too due to mistakes by the crew instead of a technical failure. The exact moment of the plane going down was caught on camera. Take a look.
Пиздец, это беспилотник. Сбили, бабахнуло, 2 раза взорвало.
How did this happen? The preliminary assessment concluded that a planned explosion caused the crash. Fingers were raised at the Kremlin, but it maintained silence, denying any involvement. However, the timing of it all could not be ignored. The crash came nearly 2 months after Prigozhin's failed mutiny, remember. First he disappeared, then he released a video message seemingly from Africa, and a week later, he ended up dying in that plane crash. Who was behind all of this? It still remains a mystery. Another such death was of General Mohammad Zia-ul-Haq. He was the 6th president of Pakistan. The year was 1988. On the 17th of August, General Zia-ul-Haq was aboard a Lockheed C-130 Hercules. Along him were some of his generals and the American ambassador to Pakistan, Arnold Louis Raphael. They had flown to a desert site in Bahawalpur to watch a demonstration of the M1A battle tanks. The US had been pressing Pakistan to buy them. When the officials were traveling back to Islamabad, they met with a tragedy nobody saw coming, only a few miles out of Bahawalpur. The plane reportedly went up and down for a while before hitting the ground almost perpendicularly. This is what the wreckage looked like. A Pakistani official who was the first to reach the crash site told Dawn that he saw dismembered body parts of the general. He recognized them based on the general's clothes. Again, there were many questions. Was the crash a result of technical failure or an assassination? Was it a case of sabotage? If yes, then who was involved? Later, several commissions were formed by the Pakistani government to find out the truth, the cause behind the crash. One of them was Shafiqur Rahman Commission. It thoroughly investigated the incident, but the reports were never released. Why so? That also remains a mystery. Even the post-mortems of the bodies were stopped by a higher order. But there is a theory that is largely believed to be true. It is the mango crate theory. General Zia-ul-Haq's son and former Pakistani minister Mohammad Ijaz-ul-Haq has also confirmed it. So what's the speculation? That the crates loaded in the plane not only carried mangoes but explosives as well. According to media reports, Ijaz-ul-Haq has said that there is evidence that the mango crates carried explosives. But that's not the full story. He also claimed that nerve gas was also pumped into the cabin to paralyze the pilots. Was that why the plane went up and down before crashing? And again, who was behind all of this? There are conspiracies pointing at President Zia-ul-Haq's military secretary, but they have not been proven. And then there was the Air India 101 crash. The plane was carrying 117 passengers and crew members. Among them was a nuclear physicist and the father of India's nuclear program, Homi Jehangir Baba. Baba was a huge strategic asset to India. Losing him was a major setback to India's nuclear program. So what really happened? Only if we could find out. All we know is the flight took off from Mumbai. It was en route London via Delhi, Beirut and Geneva. The flight took off from Beirut but crashed a few minutes before landing in Geneva. Where exactly? At Europe's second highest peak, Mont Blanc. The precise reasons why the plane went down still remain unknown, but a strong theory is the CIA was involved. I say this based on an excerpt from a book. The book is titled Conversations with the Crow. It's a transcript of journalist Gregory Douglas's interview with retired CIA agent Robert Crowley. Let me read out what Crowley said about India and Homi J. Bhabha. I'm quoting, "We had trouble, with India back in the 60s when they got uppity and started work on an atomic bomb. And we did not want them to have any kind of nuclear weaponry. Oh yes, and their head expert was fully capable of building a bomb, and we knew just what he was up to. He was warned several times, but what an arrogant prick that one was. Name was Homi Bhabha. That one was dangerous, believe me. He was flying to Vienna to stir up more trouble when his 707 had a bomb go off in the cargo hold, and they all came down on a high mountain way up in the Alps. We could have blown it up over Vienna, but we decided the high mountains were much better for the bits and pieces to come down on," quote unquote. Let me repeat that. Quoting again, "We could have blown it up over Vienna, but we decided the high mountains were better." That is what the former CIA agent said on record. What more confession do we really need? Maybe it's not as big a mystery as we thought it to be. But Raisi's death is. What happened to him adds to the long list of unsolved, high-profile air crashes.